Hi Nines, I had a request for page 329, um, number 12. So if we take a look at the question in the book, it says graph this pair of lines and identify their x and y intercepts. So there are two sets of lines. There are 2x plus 5y equals 10, and then 2x plus 5y equals negative 10. And then there's another pair in part B, but I'm going to show you how to do A, and then hopefully you can replicate it in part B. So whenever you have an equation in this form, which is a variation of standard form, you want to graph by, well, you can graph in two ways. You could rearrange it and graph using the slope or the y-intercept, or you can graph using the x and y intercepts. So I'm going to graph using the x and y intercepts. So to determine the x and y intercepts, right? So let's say to determine the x-intercept, well, we know that at all x-intercepts, y has to equal 0. So to calculate the x-intercepts then, I set y equal to 0. So I'm going to do 2x plus 5. I'm going to set y equal to 0 equals 10. So now I have 2x, and then 5 times 0 is just nothing. So 2x is going to be equal to 10. And then I divide both sides by 2. And so I end up with x is equal to 5. So that's my x-intercept. Then I want to calculate my y-intercept. Well, when I calculate a y-intercept, I know on my y-intercept x is equal to 0. So this time I'm going to replace x with 0 because x is equal to 0, and then I have 5y equals 10. Well, 2 times 0 is just nothing, so I don't need it. So then I have 5y equals 10. I can divide both sides by 5, and I have y equals 2. So those are my x and my y-intercepts, and I am going to go ahead and I am going to graph those. So I'm just going to draw a graph down here on the paper. So this is my y-axis. Remember to label your axes. This is my x-axis. And then I have to label my scale. Okay, so I'm just going to, because it's 5 and 2, I'm just going to go up by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to do the same thing here. 1, 2, right, 4, 6. So when when I'm determining the equation of my line, I determined that my x-intercept was x equals 5, so my x-intercept sits on the x-axis, and so I go here to 2, 3, 4, 5, and I put my dot. Then I know that my y-intercept is 2, so I go on the y-axis, and I go to 2, and I put my dot. So now I have two dots for my line, so I can just connect them and draw my line. So I've drawn this line, and this line is y, 2x plus 5y equals 10. All right, so I've just used this idea of intercepts. And another way to think of an intercept, right, is since it's on the x-axis, I know my y-coordinate is going to be 0 anywhere on my x-axis. So if y is 0, I can just literally hide that. So 2x equals 10, which means that x has to equal 5, which is what I have. And then if I'm going for my y-axis, which is this one, well, I know that x is going to be 0 anywhere along the y-axis. So I can hide my x's. So I have 5y equals 10 or y equals 2. Well, now I want to do the other equation. So I have 2x plus 5y equals negative 10. So the first thing I'm going to do is calculate my x-intercept for this equation. So I'm just going to split this up so that we can actually see the different parts. All right, so 2x plus 5y equals negative 10. To get the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0. So I'm going to do 2x plus 5 times 0 equals negative 10. So now I have 2x equals negative 10. And so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And so x equals negative 5. Well, that's my x-intercept, so I'm going to come over here, and I know that on this side, it goes in the negative direction. So I'm going to put my dot here at negative 5. Now, I can do the same thing with the y-intercept. So I've got 2 times 0 plus 5 times y equals negative 10. So 5y equals negative 10. I divide both sides by 5. And so y equals negative 2. So I can go down here knowing that on my grid, it's always, right, negatives, positives, negatives, positives. So y equals negative 2, so I'm going to put my dot here. And I can connect these ones. And when I do, this is my other line. Did I actually even show you what I was doing there? So I knew that x was equal to negative 5, so I put my dot here. Y was equal to negative 2, so I put my dot here. And so now I have that line. And so this equation is 2x plus 5y equals negative 10. And don't forget to always write the equation of your line when you have multiple lines on a grid. So I have graphed them, and as you can see, they are parallel and distinct, and hopefully you knew they were going to be parallel and distinct, because when you looked at the equations, right, this 2x plus 5y and this 2x plus 5y were exactly the same. Okay, so given that you had already calculated or determined the x and y intercepts for this line, you actually could just have figured out this line just simply by figuring out the y-intercept and then just moving your whole line down. But that's for another class. So that is 12A, so hopefully you can repeat and do that for 12B. Hope that helps.